Beautiful. Okay, so what's excellent here is that obviously the label said I was going to be chatting with Brett. Now I'm finding out I'm going to be chatting with you, which is great because we can chat about the drums and the bass on the record. Obviously, I'll wait on the bass questions, but
Sure.
drum questions. I see your kit behind you. I saw the kit on the music videos that were sent out specifically on the ropes. So you guys are in the studio, it looks like.
Correct, yeah.
Take us through your drum sound on the record. Is it that kit right there? Is it those cymbals right there?
What's directly behind me, no. On the video, it's the same cymbals. It's kind of the same drum set. Actually, I have two different drum sets, but the sizes are really similar, and they're both DW kits. So in the actual recording of the album, I used it's a green satin oil finish kit. The toms are a little deeper, and on the video, I used the black kit that I use kind of on the road, the little workhorse kit.
Mm-hmm. The one you don't care about.
Well, no, the one that could fall down a flight of stairs and I won't, break down crying.
Exactly.
Which is why I bought it, because let's see, which album was it? I want to say a place called Home Darkest Days. When we started touring, we were touring with the Misfits and Bad Religion, and I would bring my really nice green kit, and you're setting up in hallways. There was one particular instance where they were kicking a guy out, and the bouncers were dragging the guy down the hallway, and he just started grabbing at all my drums to just to hold on to something to stay in the venue.
Right.
And
because that would work.
That was about the time I went, I should just get a kit that, again, can fall down a flight of stairs and I won't be as sad.
Yeah, as emotionally distraught. Well, that's kind of first thing that came to mind was, I'm touring with these bands, well-known bands. I'm bringing in the drum kit. It's really nice. Did they have nice equipment, or were they like, no, man, we're touring. We're not going to bring nice stuff.
You mean
like Misfits and all that?
Oh, well, in the Misfits tour, they make all their own gear. They make their guitars. I'm sure they design their own speaker cabinets. The drums were totally like mixed match drums, but then they painted them all like a fluorescent green and had all these little props on them, and more like a stage prop than like a proper drum set. But it worked. It looked really cool.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason I wanted to get into the drum sound, Craig, is because I really like the drum sound that's on the record. It's big.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's big. It's punchy. I also want to say under control, because it sounds big and punchy, but it's not like, tons of room reverb or something to make it sound unintentionally huge.
Yeah, pretty much this time the tuning, I don't want to say put a bunch of tape on it, but you want to get the toms you don't want them to ring out that much. I've done other albums where I let the toms ring, and you can just really hear it kind of ring over the bar into the next part. This one, you really want the tom sound to just kind of go doom and just go away. You get the sound and it goes away instead of just doom.
Right.
And we did that with the toms. I used a DW Purple Heart snare, which is one of my favorite snares, and Peisty 2002 cymbals. And then a lot of it's Cameron as well, our producer. Most of it's Cameron.
Cool. DW guy, Peisty guy. Why is that? Just some of the heroes that you've got did that?
Yeah. DW, well, when I was looking for endorsements back in the 90s or something, when I was actually, DW came pretty. I've grown up with a lot of the people that work at DW and some of the guys that own it, and it's kind of where the town that I live in is where DW started. So I went to high school with a lot of the owners' kids and stuff like that. So. Wow. That I want to say that helped a little bit. I got in a band that the drummer I replaced was a DW artist. So I'm sure there was some kind of recognition, or they knew who the band was, and then they knew who I was or something. So I got the DW, which is great because they're the best. And then I got the Peisty deal around the same time. I got Regal Tip sticks, which was cool because those are the sticks that I bought even before I got the endorsement. And so all my and then I use attack heads,
Okay.
and sleeved washers
Wow.
from Hendrix drums.
Okay.
They're little washers you put in the tension rod.
And what does that do?
It helps the tuning.
Okay.
Makes it a little smoother. You don't get that especially with snares. You'll start tuning it up really high, and you start getting this kind of like feels like a metal to metal kind of contact. So you get a little bit more room.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned attack heads. I know it's kind of like between Remo and I want to say D'Addario, same company, but it's not D'Addario when they make.
D'Addario is Evans.
Right, Evans
is distributed made by D'Addario. So yeah, it's the big three. No, the big two is Remo and Evans.
Yeah,
which have a history long that goes way back. And then there's other ones like Aquarian and Attack and stuff like that. I like Attack.
Okay.
I've been using them for quite a long time. Okay.
Why is that?
They endorsed me.
Okay. All right. Simple answer. I can't wait to have that answer. John, why are you in this room? Well, this room endorses me. So.
Well, in some cases, back then it was when I got the endorsements. A lot of it was, I went to the NAMM show, which is the whole music convention in Anaheim. Talked to the reps at all the different companies, and then at that time you were still sending out packages. There was no EPKs or anything like that.
Wow.
So it was still like throw stuff in an envelope and send it to them. So basically, you send it to and have a package to everybody and hope you get some bites, and then I did get some bites. Luckily, the bites I got were products that I already used and that I really liked.
Yeah. Back in the day when you actually had to go physically check your inbox?
Yeah, well, the inbox was your mailbox. Yeah, your answer would be if you got a letter from the company, that was you're not getting anything.
Right.
You're not getting an endorsement. But if you got like a manila envelope, like a package, that's like here's the contract, here's some stickers, here's information.
Yeah.
So that was your inbox back then.
That's right, baby. Boom. Okay, let's talk about this record. Self-titled album, out March 25th via Century Media Records. I've got information right here from the label. What was the intention with this record? You mentioned that there was a new lineup, but was there an intention that you guys set out with this record, or did you guys just sit down and write a record, and what came out is what came out?
Well, the intention, let's see, in the end of 2019, our previous singer quit the band, and we were just...
How dare he?
Yeah.
Singers.
He quit the band, and then so we wanted to find a new singer. We wanted to keep going. So we just started working on songs, and obviously that's when the whole lockdown thing happened. So luckily we all had, access to computers, and we all had like GarageBand or Pro Tools or all that stuff. So we were able to start just kind of writing stuff and sending stuff back and forth to each other. And then after months of that and, building up a bunch of songs, we hooked up with Eli, our new singer, and continued the process. And then we started rehearsing, and then we went in the studio and recorded the record.
Yeah.
And as far as the intention was to make a great record, something that could stand up to the previous records, especially our Darkest Days.
Okay.
And I think we definitely achieved that, and I think we even surpassed it.
Did you guys ever stop, like in pre-pro or somewhere along the lines, and say, is this meeting the standard? And were there some songs or some parts that ended up getting rewritten as a result of that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we wrote, rewrote, re-recorded demos, cut songs. I mean, we wrote. I know every band always says, "Oh, we wrote like 1 million songs for these records," but we did write a lot of songs, a lot of really good songs that didn't make the record. That made it all the way up through rehearsals, up to we're going in the studio tomorrow. We got to really narrow it down to these 10, 12 songs we want to do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really good stuff that didn't make it on the record. And
EP,
but yeah,
maybe?
along the process, you're always constantly not second guessing. That's not the right word, but
yeah,
constantly reevaluating. And is this as good as it can be? How's this going to go? And we also have, or at least in the back of my mind, I have our producer kind of going over my shoulder of him. What would he say about this? Would he be like, well, why are you doing this? What's going on with this? What is this exciting? Is this going too many times? Is this not going long enough? Right. And so you're just constantly doing that reevaluation.
Yeah.
And it's good because it just distills it. It just whittles it down to like just the essence of the song.
Mm-hmm. So, Brett, now that you're here, we can talk about the bass. We've been talking about some drums. We talked about the drum sound. We talked about the album itself. And then just before you popped in, the question I had basically asked that Craig was in the middle of answering was, this album, self-titled, what was the intention behind it? I know sometimes bands say, I really want an album, something that you listen to from beginning to end. People aren't doing it anymore. Or common one is, this is the heaviest album we've ever done, right? So what was the intention behind it? And so Craig was in the middle of saying, basically, for lack of better hubris, the best freaking album that we've ever done, and he believes that the band has achieved such a thing. Brett?
Well, yeah, and the way I look at it is a lot of bands start their careers with their albums. Like if you take like maybe the Ramones or the Clash, or I don't know, I think the Foo Fighters record was self-titled, the first one. Band I'm Into, the Stone Roses, they were self-titled, and it's where they launched their career. We had a few different album titles, and we had the idea of doing a self-titled one for this one. And when we talked to the label guys, they had the same idea. They were like, hey, why don't you guys do a self-titled? It's like this rebirth of the band, the next chapter. It's kind of this like, it's kind of a reset, the start over. And it seemed to fit, and it just felt right, rather than just kind of integrating some lyrics into a album title. Or we had some cool ones that we liked, but just the idea of having it self-titled and this fresh start with Eli as the singer here kind of seemed like a no-brainer, seemed like the right call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the comments I had from listening to the tracks was, it doesn't sound like Eli's new at all. The whole thing is seamlessly put together.
Appreciate that. Man, a lot of work. It just happened overnight. It was easy.
Right.
Right? No, yeah, a lot of work went into this. We had, not to say fortunately, but during the pandemic, we had 2 years where we weren't going to be distracted by concerts anyways. We weren't going to go anyways. And it was just kind of worked out to where we were just able to focus on songwriting and rehearsing. And so we put a ton of work in, and like Craig said, we're super proud of the result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because one of the things that we were just chatting about was 10 songs made it onto the record, but Craig was saying like roughly 1 million songs were written. So it was
No, I said a lot of bands say we wrote 1 million songs.
Yeah.
Well, and they do. We wrote.
No, but in reality, there was a lot of songs that we wrote that made it to different phases of the process.
We were in the 30s, to be honest, on the songs. We were like high 20s, and then at the end we wrote like 4 or 5 more songs. So we were into the 30s on songs. And when I mean songs, I don't mean just like, hey, I had this riff. It was like,
they were all
vocals,
songs.
Lyrics, melodies, harmonies, backups, like the whole thing. So go ahead.
Oh, I told him that even up through the rehearsals, the day before we went in the studio, we were still reevaluating and cut, and we ended up having to cut some songs. I mean, a few songs that we thought were going to make the record for sure ended up not making it, and were replaced by better songs.
Mm-hmm. And say full-size children or something, like how do you cast those guys away? Like, well, sorry, Jimmy, you're not on this one.
Well, we love all our children, just some have their shit together a little more than others.
Yeah, and we write, it's pretty strategic the way that we kind of put the records together, and kind of how we always have. It was like, okay, we know we're going to have X amount of fast songs, and there's going to be some mid-tempo songs, there's going to be some heavy songs. So we kind of group those into like groups. Okay, we need probably 3 or 4 this style. That one song kind of stands on its own, so that's going to be a cool element, something new to the record. So
a song was really good, but kind of similar to another song in tempo or feel or something. Or
so you kind of pick the best ones out of those batches to create the peaks and valleys that, we kind of always try and do on Ignite records, rather than just having like 10 fast songs. Obviously, Ignite records always have peaks and valleys, and I think that's what makes it interesting for us. And hopefully for the listeners too.
Mm-hmm. With regard to peaks and valleys, is there then a theme to the record or a story to the record?
No, it wasn't like a concept album at all. But yeah, no, I don't think it followed along that. And then with the amount of songs that we did have, it was kind of all over the place for subject matter. So yeah, we ended up going with the final 10, 11 that we did, and wasn't telling a particular story with all of them together, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Anything going to happen with those extra songs? Maybe an EP coming?
I don't think so. I think they didn't make the album for a reason. I love writing new music. I think that's one of the most fun things that we get to do as musicians, is we get to write. And I think if those songs that didn't make the record were good enough, they would have been on the record. Maybe maybe a couple of them could move on, but
revisit them when we start doing a second record. Maybe go revisit a few and see if they still hold up. But you always want to kind of keep writing, and it's more exciting to write new stuff and to come up with new things than to just, because it's easy. Bands could always just go back and just do all the ones that didn't make it on the record, and it sounds like that. It'll sound that way on the record.
Yeah, there's new inspiration, new music that we listen to. The new music we listen to always inspires us. And I think if you start rehashing old stuff, you lose that kind of little like added value.
Yeah, it feels a little lazy too. To go back and just do the stuff you didn't use.
Now, Brett, one of the notes I had made from listening to the record was some incredibly melodic bass lines.
Thank you, sir. That's what I try and do.
Okay.
Yeah, Brett was MVP on this one.
All right.
My inspiration when I started playing bass was just pretty much solely Peter Hook from Joy Division New Order, and his bass lines are always way high up the neck, super melodic. So I've always considered myself a poor man's Peter Hook, and and other got bass players that like Eric Avery from Jane's Addiction. He always had these big bass lines that were always telling their own story through these songs. 3 Days, Mountain Song, Summertime Rolls. And then Randy from Pennywise is a fantastic bass player, and I'm friends with him, and I've always respected his style and his playing. So taking little bits and pieces from those three guys and trying to create my own style. Yeah, it's always fun to kind of throw some cool little bass stuff on there. And that was always like the goal of Ignite when we started. We didn't just want to have the bass playing the root note with the guitar playing the chord. When me and the first guitar player were writing the music, it was always, let's play counter melodies to the root notes and come up with something interesting.
Yeah, well, something that you mentioned was telling a story with the bass. Is that something that is always conscious? You're saying, am I telling a story right now?
I think so. Filling in, and a lot of times my last pass of doing the bass will be after all the vocals are recorded, because you don't want to like throw a bass run or a little melodic part over where a vocal's going to be. So there's gaps, there's parts where the singer's not singing, and it's like, okay, what can I do in that little section that's fun, or what can I do in that section that will add something? So yeah, I love going in on that last day of doing bass and coming up with those final ideas of filling in the gaps.
Okay, then how did Eli track vocals? Did you have like a scratch bass for him to track vocals?
Yeah, we play along with Craig when we're tracking. So we got scratch guitar and scratch bass, and he did all scratch vocals too. So we had like a live feel for the drums, and it was cool because you could hear the song immediately as we were laying down the basic tracks of the drums. We like, okay, there's the song. It maybe wasn't, the bass wasn't 100% right, or the guitar is obviously not doubled in leads and stuff, but yeah, it was cool hearing the song immediately as we're tracking the drums. That like basically the whole thing was there.
And we also had demoed, re-demoed, rewritten. Everything. The songs were all complete when we went in the studio.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And in the video for On the Ropes, is that the studio you guys recorded in?
It is. Yeah, that's Maple Studios in Santa Ana, California, home of Cameron Webb, the producer. It's his spot. Yep.
Monsieur Webb. Okay. Very nice studio. Very nice space.
Yeah, and like a ton of great bands have been in there. I mean, Pennywise, Alkaline Trio, NoFX, Motorhead, Social Distortion. I mean, his catalog of bands that he's worked with is fantastic. And
we've done the last 3 albums there as well.
And I was telling a story the other day, like about Cameron, that sometimes I'll have to go in and drop off a hard drive or something on a, 2 weeks before or a few weeks after, and he's working with a new band is in there, and you walk in and I kind of took me by, not surprise, but I walked in the control room and he was in the middle of working on a song with these guys, and he was giving as much like passion as he gives to us. And it was kind of like, hey, what's going on here? I thought this was our special treatment, but it was really cool seeing.
We're your favorite child.
Yeah, seeing him work, whoever was in the room doing that same energy and that same. And man, I was really glad at that point that we were done recording, because it looked exhausting. I was just like, oh man, I'm so glad I'm not in the studio right now getting yelled at by Cameron to make this part better or this more interesting. And but it was really cool to see him working with another band, giving it the same treatment.
Mm-hmm. That's probably why he's got the track record he does.
He gets results.
He does. He gets results, and he pushes you to write better. And a lot of the time it's like, I think the artist doesn't want to bend to some things that the producer will say. And we've tried to make him as an equal band member when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Just have a cutaway in a music video. It's like, well, I don't know. What does Michael Bolton say? And then Michael Bolton's like, I don't know. I think the band's right on this one. And then, I don't know. Just you kind of.
Well, and Cameron will say, if you believe in a part, show me why it's better than what I'm thinking. And he's fair on that stuff. And he wants it to be a collaboration. He just doesn't want to tell us like, hey, fix this, or hey, this isn't good enough. It's like, well, if you think it's good enough, then prove it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, cool. Speaking of Eli, something else I noticed was intentionally off-key vocals in certain key lines in some of the songs, especially in The River. And that was cool because it caught me off guard. And usually I'm used to key lines being an extra harmony, or it's doubled, or there's an effect on it, something, or aggressive auto tune, but to actually go intentionally off key to make me go, hold on a second, what was that?
Well, I think so. We recorded this album in 14 days. It was Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, and it was done. And it was one of the quickest sessions that we ever had. And we wanted, I like when bands sound like bands, when it sounds real, when it sounds like human beings playing. There's so many bands in our genre where all the drums sound the same and the tones sound the same. And we wanted to make this album sound like human beings playing songs. And
so no snare number 10, no Kemper Profile 5150. Yeah.
No, we were actually in there twisting knobs and everything.
Yeah, and we did everything in the same studio on the same board, which is something that Cameron would kind of explain to us, or that there's a glue that holds the whole thing together when you're working on the same board. Where nowadays a lot of bands, mostly out of necessity, people will record their tracks on their own and then send the files over, and you put everything down, and that works, and it sounds fine, and everything lines up. But there's a magic, there's something, and Cameron's right. There's a glue that holds it all together when everything's done in the same studio on the same session.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think it needs to be perfect. I think it needs to be flawed. And I think that's what makes, I just think about the first records we recorded. There was no click track and no auto tune. There was a bunch of plugins, and not plugins, but there was a bunch of outboard gear that we would use, reverbs and choruses and stuff. But it was like you put down on 2-inch tape what you could do, and that was it. And I think, the flaws in it is what makes it special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, then you're kind of like you're a live band going in the studio trying to just capture that live sound. Whereas you do more records, and I know, at least my opinion on this record was, we became a much better band in the studio. It wasn't just capture the live thing and hopefully that works. We got better at recording.
Yeah, we did. Totally.
Yeah, that's a skill in itself. I can't tell you how many local bands I've seen live that sound great, and then I hear their EP or their first single, and I'm like,
didn't quite capture what they're doing live. Yeah.
Yeah, And you mentioned the board. It's kind of funny. I was chatting with Carcass last year, and a question came up in the chat about guitar tone, because, you know, everybody wants to know what the secret was to their guitar tone on surgical steel or whatever. It was the mixing board.
I mean, they just used the preamps on the mixing board, or
it was some scuzzy mixing board, and the guy didn't even remember what mixing board it was, and that studio doesn't even exist anymore. But he said that they recorded those guitars, I think, in 3 different studios, and it just happened to sound the way it sounded going through that one mixing board. So it's crazy how much the mixing board can change things. You mentioned, you know, the glue of the band, and you put everything through the same preamps and the same everything. It's going to influence.
It's an instrument. I mean, the board's definitely an instrument just as much as a guitar or a snare drum or a bass or anything.
Yeah.
And you got a guy like Cameron whose ears are so dialed in with that board. And he's in that room every day, and it's like, it's kind of like an extension of his ears.
Speaking of an extension of ears, looks like there's a tour coming up in May.
Yep. So we're doing some U.S. dates straight into Europe in May.
Okay.
Yeah, we start in the middle of May, where we start Colorado, make our way across the country, and do a lot of stuff on the East Coast. We got some really cool show coming up with Earth Crisis, Snapcase, and Strife in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And that's the California Takeover, which is pretty cool. They're really good friends of ours, and looking forward to playing with them.
Yeah, and we start that tour off perfectly with Murphy's Law in Denver. So it's going to be amazing playing with them on Cinco de Mayo. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a rager, and those guys are a lot of fun. So and then we sit for a couple days in Philly, Jersey area, and then fly over and jump on tour with NoFX, Pennywise, Me First, and the Gimme Gimmes for like a 3-week tour.
Okay, cool.
So those are going to be great shows.
You guys excited? Has it been a while?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been pandemic, 2 years, a little over 2 years, almost 3.
Yeah. November 19, we went and did a short little run in Europe. We had a festival in Holland, and we did a couple German shows, and that wasn't even a really proper tour. That was just like 4 or 5 dates. But it's been since the summer.
Been summer 2019.
Yeah, summer 2019 since we went out and did a proper run.
Okay. How does it feel getting back on the horse?
It's great.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's for me, it's going to slow the world down again. Being home, doing the same thing every day, it starts zipping by, man. It starts going like, it's Wednesday, or it was just Thursday. And when you're out traveling, you're basically kind of going through this whole experience every day. We'll be in Denver, and then we got to go to St. Louis, and it's an overnight drive, and it just slows life down for me. You're in Berlin, and then you got to go up to Sweden, and it's like new experiences, seeing stuff every day. And I love touring. It really slows my whole world down for me.
Yeah. And we got new blood in the band, and the shows we've been doing with Eli, I literally go like, I wish we could just play show after show, because I can't wait to see what he does next.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's like he's so energetic on stage. He sounds so great.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait till we can just start doing just touring and just playing show after show, and really like honing everything in and just dialing in the set. And
because we haven't had a chance to do that yet. It's just been like a couple one-off shows, and then you're like, we don't have a show the next day. It's like, because you want
to Madden chalkboard the thing and go, okay, so after the second song we did this, let's change this around, let's move this over here.
Yeah.
And you can do that, but then you're like, well, we got to wait till the next gig 2 weeks from now to do it.
Yeah, to see if that worked.
Yeah.
Very cool. Trying things on the fly to make sure that the set list flows a little bit better. You guys are going through quite a few different parts of the United States, and then eventually going through Europe. Is that a consideration in changing around the set list?
Not between
absolutely.
Not between the continents, but actually a little bit. But it's just like Craig said, it's like getting it honed and seeing what works. And I mean, you want it to come off like a very natural flow, but you want it to be fully scripted, because that's the best way that you're going to, from my experience, that's the best way to get a set dialed in, is repetition and doing the same thing and getting it figured out and getting it right. And then, having it come off natural. Go ahead.
And it evolves over, like it's like a living organism, man. It's going to evolve, and things change and things feel different, but I like that process.
Yeah.
Cool. So we've got tour dates coming up in May. New album, self-titled, out March 25th via Century Media Records. Couple of videos are currently available: On the Ropes and The River.
And Anti-Complicity Anthem. And
This Day.
We got four of them.
Boom. 4 videos and 4 songs out, yeah.
Okay. Boom.
And that's been a really cool thing. Sorry to jump on a tangent here, but just having all these songs come out first, rather than like in the 90s and the 2000s, it was like the record's coming out in 2 weeks. There's a bunch of ads in some magazines. Then the one song gets pushed, and then the label moves on. And now it's like we've had 5 months of rollout, maybe even longer, 6 months. And it's cool. You get we're showing the world our album and showing all these videos. And it's like the first time I've ever felt we've got proper marketing and a proper rollout on an album. And I think if this is how records are rolled out nowadays, this is so cool for bands that we get this whole process to show the world the album.
Yeah, red carpet kind of, in a way.
It's just cool. It's just a different way to do it. And then now, since everybody's on all these streaming platforms where everybody's paying their monthly fee, there's not that worry that the album's going to leak and it's all going to get out at the same time, because people aren't really doing that anymore. People aren't really trying to like go get albums don't leak anymore. You don't hear about that. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to get it anyway on Apple Music or Spotify. I pay my subscription. I don't know. There's not that element anymore. So it's kind of cool. You kind of get to roll the record out how it's meant to be rolled out.
I'm also old enough to remember when albums were leaked. So.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, the last album we did, we were like a couple days before there was this constant, like, people would send us links to where it was leaked, and we'd send it to this company that we had that would go and shut it down, and this whole like just whack-a-mole kind of game.
Is it flattering though? Like at the same time?
Yeah,
at that point it wasn't, because it would just felt like the curtain was being pulled back too early.
Right.
Yeah, in that respect, the big reveal was being screwed up. But as far as like sales or something, like if you're a huge band, then that will definitely affect you.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right, boys. Was there anything else? Craig said we had about 30 minutes. We're about up on that 30 minutes. Was there anything though that you guys wanted to say, address, chat about? Most exciting?
I mean, just one thing that I think has changed in Ignite. Obviously, it's a whole new band. Well, not a whole new band, but we have our new voice with Eli. A big thing for us that we, as the 4 of us who have been in the band, not putting albums out every 6, 8, 10 years was really frustrating for us, and it was just the dynamic of how the band worked at that time. But like, it's a big thing for us now is to. We definitely want to let people know that we're going to be putting music out as fast as we can.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. You guys have the right partnership with Century Media now too.
Yeah, no, they're great, man. They've been a part of our team for a long time now, and it just feels right.
Mm-hmm. Groovy. All right, boys. Well then, if you have to jump onto your next interview, then thank you so much for popping on and chatting with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Awesome. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Cheers, boys.
All right. Have a good one.